right, well, welcome back. The Krueg Show, getting you ready for 49er football. Niners and Chiefs go Sunday at Levi's. And with us to help us break it all down is a man that I've known for years and years, Jeff Chadiha, who's now with NFL.com. He's also with the NFL Network. Long time ago, he used to slum it here in the Bay Area doing media, and now he's gone national. Jeff, good to see you, man. How are you?
Same here. I'm doing well. Larry, how about yourself?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic, and I thought of you this week because I'm like, you know what, Jeff's based in KC, and that means that you probably got some pretty good insight on the Chiefs, even though you're not necessarily a Chiefs guy. Yeah. But what do you expect of Chiefs Niners this week? And before actually we get to the matchup, what is your thought on the 49ers trading in the last 24 hours for Christian McCaffrey?
Well, the NFC West is where big shakeups go, right? I mean, Cardinals a few years ago dumped their first-round pick, Josh Rosen, got Kyler Murray. Rams go ahead and trade Jared Goff and pick up Matthew Stafford, pick up Von Miller and OBJ for their run to a championship. So now it's the Niners' turn. They went with Trey Lance, and now they're going to go get CMC. I like it. I think that I think it makes sense because you're talking about a team that will have a rookie quarterback next year when Jimmy Garoppolo is gone, and CMC is still, Christian McCaffrey is still a phenomenal back when he's healthy. And you put him in that offense with George Kittle and Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk and Kyle Juszczyk. I mean, that's a lot of weapons you have at your disposal for your offense, whether it's Garoppolo or Trey Lance. So defense is banged up. Offense has got to do some heavy lifting right now. And so to have a Pro Bowl running back in your lineup, it can't hurt.
Yeah, they said they outbid the Rams for his services. What do you think of the price tag? It's a 2, a 3, and a 4 in next year's draft. It's a 5th in the 24 draft. What did you think of the price tag?
I didn't really have a problem with it. I know it's a lot of picks, but again, you're getting a guy you think can be a difference maker for you. You already have a team that's pretty deep, is pretty young, and has a lot of talent. And so I don't see where there's a player at those spots in the draft next year who's going to come into this team and immediately help them. And so for me, it makes sense. Again, it's a high roller, a high stakes type of bid here, a trade. But again, I don't think that you're losing much in the draft next year for what you want to gain this year. They think they can win a championship. Philadelphia and Minnesota have proven themselves in the NFC. Everybody else is kind of squabbling and trying to figure out, where they fit in. So the Niners, if they can make a move with this, it's a good move.
Yeah, and I think they feel fortified, Jeff, from the standpoint of they got additional picks when Mike McDaniel went to Miami. They got additional picks when Saleh went to the Jets. They got additional picks when Mayhew went to the Washington front office. And so we're talking about 6 third-round draft choices. And then you have D'Amico, who I would say is very likely to get a head coaching job in this next coaching cycle. So that new rule that awards draft picks, in some ways, the 49ers are using all those extra draft picks to make this transaction with McCaffrey.
Yeah, exactly. And again, that will help them down the road. But right now, if you said, what would you rather have, those draft picks or a realistic shot at winning a championship? I'm going with that championship shot every time around. I know people are looking at the Rams right now and saying what's happened to them, but 7 months ago, people were raving about all the moves that they made and how it worked out for them. So again, I look at the NFC as a whole, and I look at what Philadelphia is. I look at what Minnesota is, and I just think right now the Niners are very much in that mix if they can get healthy and if that offense can really take a step forward.
Yeah, let's go in that direction a little bit further. What do you think overall of the NFC? Because Brady is starting to show his age for the first time ever. It's amazing. Rodgers is starting to show his age, I think. So those two contenders aren't quite as premier as they used to be. And then you've got, some teams on the perimeter, like Atlanta's an ascending team. I kind of like what Minnesota's doing, but they're not quite ready. So who are the contenders? Is it Philly? Is Dallas a legit contender? I mean, outside of the 49ers, the NFC looks absolutely wide open to me. Yeah. And I don't think the 49ers fear, Jeff, going into Philly in the playoffs and having to beat the Eagles. I don't think that's going to faze them.
No, because they have things that travel well, right? They run the football. They play great defense. A lot of these guys who are banged up will come back, and so that's going to benefit them. It's tough to go through this kind of stuff, these kind of injuries in the middle of a season, but the upside of it is that you're going through it early. You're not going through it in November, December when you really need to have these guys on the field. So That's going to be a big factor getting these guys healthy. But you're right. You look at the NFC. Dallas is definitely a contender with that defense and with Dak Prescott coming back. I believe Atlanta is in the mix because of the way they run the football, and I think their offensive line is good and they're well coached. The NFC West to me is a crapshoot right now, just because the Rams still have talent, they still have good coaching. The Seahawks are sitting there at 3-3, and nobody thought they'd be in the mix. And the Cardinals getting DeAndre Hopkins back looked like a whole different team. Watching them last night against the Saints. So I think that you're going to have probably, the Green Bay Packers and the Bucs will be in there at some point because of their pedigree and their quarterbacks. But yeah, we're past the point where we're saying those are the two teams that you got to worry about the most. Everybody's in the mix right now.
Before we get to the matchup, but Niners Chiefs, you jogged a thought with the NFC West commentary. Geno looks incredible. I mean, Geno looks better than Russell Wilson. I mean, to be totally honest, and that to me is one of the biggest surprises. And then I got to get your thoughts on what's going on in Arizona. I mean, last night I didn't watch every minute of the game, but I'm looking at Kyler just letting Cliff Kingsbury get, just have an earful on the sidelines. And it just seems like there's some serious dysfunction there with the stipulation in his contract, and then they took it out, but they released it publicly, and that whole nightmare. And now you've got, it almost seems like Kingsbury and Kyler are not working together, as working against each other. I don't know what you know about that dynamic, but what do you think's going on in Arizona? How viable is Geno and the Seahawks as a playoff contender?
Well, I think they're both viable just because the NFC is a mixed bag right now. And Seattle still has a really good coach in Pete Carroll. It's ironic that their defense hasn't played at a very high standard, but you're right. Geno Smith is one of the surprise stories of the NFL right now. And the way he's playing, he understands what they need from him. He's not trying to worry about cooking. He's worried about taking care of the football and making the plays that move the chains. And that works in that offense where they made some good moves on their offensive line in the draft. Kenneth Walker has proven to be a pretty good running back, even though they lost Rashad Penny. And so, yeah, I think they're playing Seahawks football. And as far as the Cardinals go, there's always been some rumblings about how much Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury get along. There is, Kyler's a very, big personality. Kingsbury's a very, serious offensive-minded coach, maybe trying to do a little too much and maybe not always protecting his quarterback in the way he should. But I think it's, really much ado about nothing. I think it was more in the moment, heat of the battle. Things weren't going right, but it was good for them to start fast because this offense throughout the course of the season has not been known for doing that. And more importantly, they got to stack wins now because we know in November, December, they tend to not be the strongest team going.
Right. All right, let's get into 49ers Chiefs. Give me the national perspective on the Niners. They roll into this one. They're 3-3. They lost in Chicago to the Bears. They lost in Denver to a very limited Broncos team, and they just lost to the Falcons. Two of those games, they were -3 in turnovers. One game, the Bears game, it was a monsoon in the second half, and they had a ton of penalties. But give me your national perspective on the 49ers. When you're embedded and you're in it and you're immersed in it, it's kind of hard to see the forest through the trees. Sometimes it's best to ask guys like yourself who are not quite as immersed, have a little bit better perspective. Give me your thoughts on what you're seeing from the Niners.
Well, I think people know them as being a hard-nosed, tough-minded team, well-coached, going to play good defense, going to run the football. Garoppolo in there, that they're not going to try to make too many mistakes and take too many chances. And right now, I think people look at them like they're just trying to hang around. They're trying to get through a tough time with these injuries. But when they're right, probably the best defense in football. I mean, it's hard to argue with what they have at all three levels, the plays they can make, the kind of speed they have and athletic ability with guys like Nick Bosa and Fred Warner. So I think most people look at them as they looked at them last year, which was they went through some adversity last year. And at the end, they started to peak, started to figure out, started to make plays, and they were in the NFC Championship game. When Garoppolo came in, I was of the belief, and I still do think that they were going to be, if not the best team in the NFC, one of the best teams in the NFC. And I still think that because of getting these guys healthy. They know how to win. They went to a championship with a lot of these guys who are on the roster. And, again, there's just not a lot of competition. So I think they're in a good place. It's no mark of on your record to be 3-3 at this point of the season.
Yeah. What do you think of the regime? What do you think of Kyle as a head coach? What do you think of Lynch as a general manager?
I'm big fans of both of them. I've known John Lynch since he was a player, and I think he's a very smart, very shrewd GM. I like how they built this team. I love how they run the football and build stuff off that. We talked before we got on the air about Jim Harbaugh coming back for Alumni Day with the 49ers. I love those 49ers teams because of the way they were just so physical and tough-minded. And so it's as much as Kyle Shanahan is known for being an offensive mastermind, he's somebody who knows how to take care of the football, how to run it, how to be physical, and that's an important part of what they try to do.
Let's talk about the Chiefs. You probably hear more about them being in Kansas City than you probably care to. You probably know more anecdotes about them than you want to know. But I don't know a lot about Brett Veach, but I'm impressed by Veach, and I like some of the moves they've made. You look at bringing in Nick Bolton from Missouri. Short inside backer, but incredible speed, incredible instincts, and he's playing that way. I love the addition of Willie Gay, because I just think Gay just this incredible speed. L'Jarius Sneed, I thought was a terrific pick by them. Juan Thornhill, bringing in Justin Reed at strong safety from the Texans. Even the pick of Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I like Veach. Reed is obviously, if not the best, right near the top of the best coaches in the league. And you got the best quarterback going in Mahomes. Give me your perspective on what you've seen thus far with the Chiefs. They've gone without Tyreek Hill this year. It's not quite the same offense, but they're still getting pretty good results.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a change of pace. Still very prolific. They're one of the top scoring teams in the NFL. Their defense, as you mentioned, some of those additions have made them more athletic and faster. Usually this time of year, the first half of the season, they're trying to figure out how to defend the run and pressure the quarterback, and they've had some games that have looked really good in that regard. But it's also they do miss Tyreek Hill a little bit. You saw that last week against Buffalo when they had to go down the field at the end of the game to win it, and Mahomes threw an interception late. And I tell people around here, if Tyreek Hill is still on this team, there's no way Teron Johnson is jumping that out route. Right. Scott Brooks, he's going to be 30 yards down the field trying to protect from a deep shot. So it's tough, but I think Mahomes has shown that he can actually, play playmaker, point guard type quarterback, getting rid of the ball fast. But there are some challenges here with this team. They haven't run the ball very well consistently. Haven't got after the passer very well in the last couple of games. They've really, as much as they've played well defensively, the last couple of games have brought them back to earth because the Raiders really gave them fits with Josh Jacobs running for 150 yards. And you saw Devontae Adams have a huge game with a couple big touchdown catches, 120 yards on 3 catches. And then last week, you saw what Josh Allen was able to do when he wanted to do it against the Bills offense, and they ran it well with Devin Singletary. So they're at a point right now where I would expect the 49ers to try to run the football and to really try to control the tempo of this game because their defensive line is not playing at the level they need to play it at to be playing high-level defense. It's
interesting. Clark looks like to me, he looks like he's lost a lot of weight. I mean, he doesn't seem like the same physical player that I remember him coming out of Michigan or in his early days with Seattle. He just looks like he doesn't quite have the bull rush ability. And then they got some young corners. I mean, Jalen Watson, Joshua Williams. I like the kid Williams out of Fayetteville. But Rashad Fenton's hurt. Cook's hurt. They've had some injuries in the secondary. I just think that, the old Bill Urbanic, the late Bill Urbanic, by the way, we lost Billy this year. But he's Yeah, Billy's no longer with us, and I know you loved him as well. But Billy, he used to say to me, "Larry, let me tell you the key to pass coverage." He's like, "The key to pass coverage is pass coverage." In other words, there is no key to pass coverage. You got to have players. Yeah, and so, but and I really believe that. I really believe that, man. When you run out of corners, and there's no guys off the street just don't do the job. So, what do you think of the young Chief corners? Do you think Ayuk and Debo kind of pick on those guys this week?
Oh, I definitely think they get picked on. They're hoping Trent McDuffie, their first round pick, can be back in the lineup. But people around here act like he's Deion Sanders. They just think when he comes back, it's going to change the whole look of the defense. And he's a rookie too. He's a first-year player. He's going to go through his growing pains. So I would assume that they would go after them when they have opportunities. Brian Cook's been banged up. He's another rookie who's been played well for them at safety. And you're right. It's hard to go out there and play well at the secondary. when you're not getting a pass rush. And that's always been the trademark of Steve Spagnuolo defenses, is that if his front four is getting after you, it can be a long day because he can dial up blitzes, he can mix up coverages, he can do a lot of things off that. But if those guys aren't getting home up front, and Frank Clark has lost weight, but it's been a couple of years since he was played at a high level. Carlos Dunlap, they got him from Seattle, and another ex-Seahawk who high hopes for him, but he really hasn't done a whole lot. And George Karlaftis, their rookie first-round pick as well, hasn't really played, hadn't done much anything. And so they need those guys to play well for those back-end guys to really get it done.
Let's talk about the Chiefs. We'll flip the card, talk a little bit about the offense. How would you describe Reed and Bieniemy's utilization of these backs? I mean, Edwards-Helaire is the starter, but I'm having a hard time kind of figuring out when they use Pacheco, when they use Jet McKinnon. It seems like, I mean, maybe it's by design, Jeff, but it seems like there's no rhyme or reason as to their utilization of their backs.
That's about right. I don't think anybody knows what they're trying to do with them. And it's the hard part, the tough part is that I mentioned the run game issues. You're talking about one, Pacheco's a rookie who doesn't have the greatest vision in the world. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is been underwhelming, former first-round pick. And McKinnon, as you know from out there, is not the biggest guy in the world. And so when they're trying to run downhill, it's hard, especially when you don't have a blocking tight end either. Like their best blocking tight end, Blake Bell, has not been healthy all season. He was hurt in training camp. And so they're going out there with Travis Kelce, Jody Fortson, Noah Gray, three guys who are all about 6'5", 240, who look like big receivers. And it's just hard to get hat on hat when you've got, limitations in that department as well. So there's a few things going on here. Mediocrity at the running back situation. The offensive line as a whole really has not played that well. And to be honest with you, strategy-wise, they tend to like to run a lot of RPOs, a lot of zone type runs, to the outside, and they don't have the kind of backs for that. When they're at their best, when they played the Buccaneers, you saw that downhill running, a lot more power, and they had effectiveness doing that. And that's the only time they've done it all year, and it's the only time they look good running the football.
Let's finish talking about two of the difference makers, Mahomes on offense, and then we'll get to Chris Jones on defense. Mahomes is just – I'm just so impressed by him. I mean, his development, all the different arm angles. It's just a perfect marriage with him and Bieniemy and Reed. It's just, though we did see Bieniemy and Mahomes kind of jawing at each other at the end of the first half in that Colts game. Bieniemy wanted to, put it away till the second half, and Mahomes wanted to take a shot down the field.
So the 20 for the other 40-yard line, 6 seconds ago. He wanted to make a touchdown.
Andy Reid's like, guys, let's take it inside. Let's take it inside. But Mahomes, I mean, is there any recipe to slowing down the great Patrick Mahomes? Is it as simple as, I've seen the numbers, Jeff. I mean, you cannot blitz this guy. So is it you drop 8 and make him be accurate and rush 3 and hopefully he gets impatient, or because you can't give him defined reads. He'll absolutely crush you if you do. So has anybody had any success that you've seen defending him in those teams? What are they trying?
Well, I think what you see consistently, you see rushing 4 and dropping 7, rushing 3, dropping 8. That's a big, big recipe. If you want to have any chance against him, you've got to take away Travis Kelce somehow. The Bills were able to do that last week. He got a couple plays, but he didn't go crazy like he did the week before, where he had 4 touchdown catches. And then you've got to make sure that they don't, when they do run the football, you stop them. And so what I've seen them have issues this year, the Colts and the Bills both had really good defensive lines, play a lot of zone on the back end, and made sure nothing big got over the top, and really forced him to sit in the pocket a little longer than he wanted to. And without having Tyreek Hill there, and even Mahomes offered this up in training camp, when Hill was there, he could look over at him and know that whatever play was called, I can always go there to get something going.
Sure.
I like the matchup. And without that,
saw it in the Super Bowl, right?
Oh yeah, exactly. And so without that dimension, it's a little bit easier to read what he's going to do, a little bit easier to take it away. And when you have to drive the field, they've had to take 10, 11, 12 play drives. Sometimes you're going to have issues. You're going to have penalties. Somebody might drop a pass, may fumble the ball, take a sack. And so when those things happen, teams have been able to capitalize. So that's really the big thing. Rush 4, play a lot of coverage, and make them drive the field.
Let's finish talking about Chris Jones. I mean, Mississippi State, my goodness, they recruit some incredible D linemen. Jeffrey Simmons, monster. Chris Jones, monster. Montez Sweat, monster. These guys all played in Starkville. And now Jones, I know they say Aaron Donald is the best, but man, against the 49ers, Aaron Donald is neutralized and Chris Jones dominates them. He almost single-handedly won that Super Bowl. He caused the first half interception. He probably batted down 2 or 3 passes. Seems like every time they play, this guy bats down 2 or 3 third down passes by himself against Garoppolo. Have you talked to Chris Jones? What kind of guy is he? I don't know how they can possibly neutralize him. He is just he's like Mean Joe Green and he's like think of all Reggie White and Mean Joe Green. You think of the greatest defensive tackles ever. This guy plays like that every time he plays the Niners. What do you think of Jones?
Oh, he's a great player. And really, the way you neutralize him is you have to run at him. As weird as it sounds, 6'6", 325-pound man, like you really have to make him play the run because he does not – people will tell you around the league he does not like doing that a whole lot. He wants to get after the quarterback, and when you get him in the run game and you wear him down, you can frustrate him a little bit. The Buccaneers did that a couple of years ago in the Super Bowl where they got him really upset, got him a unsportsmanlike conduct penalty on him early on in that game, and really just tried to grind on him. And so that to me is a big factor here. Can the Niners get their run game going and keep him from getting in the backfield? Because the kind of quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo is the perfect kind of quarterback for Chris Jones and a Steve Spagnuolo defense to get after. You look at their track record against teams that have less mobile quarterbacks versus teams that have more mobile quarterbacks like Josh Allen or Justin Herbert. It's night and day. If you're sitting in the pocket, they're going to come after you. And Chris Jones knows, like you said, he can do it by getting in the backfield. He can do it by, taking his time in the line of scrimmage and batting down a pass. And so you better have a game plan for him. And if he's ready to go and come in and wreck a game, it's going to be hard to stop him. So you're right. They have to have a really good game plan for him. And they have to know that they're going to have to keep him off balance all game long.
Oh, he's a monster, absolute monster. All right, buddy, we appreciate the time. Hey, who gets the win in Buckeyes Wolverines? I think that is going to be absolutely an awesome game.
Shape it up. Well, people were talking, we were bashing my Wolverines earlier in the year, saying Ohio State all the talent. Ohio State's a very talented team.
Yep, they are.
I love the way Michigan's playing football and the way they're running the football. I always say if you can run the football the way they ran it against Penn State, where they had 400+ yards against a team that was one of the best rush defenses in the country, you can have a lot of success. So I think it's going to be a great matchup. I like him to get to 2-peat. Yeah, let's get 2 in 17 years, 2 in 18 years.
There you go. Is it in the horseshoe?
It's in the horseshoe. Yeah.
Now, will you make it out to those games, or when it's out in Ann Arbor? When was the last time you took in Michigan, Ohio State?
It's been a while. It's just so hard with the schedule, and you
Sure.
never know where you're going to be. And usually, it'd be great if the Lions were consistently good because you could get a game back that way. But it's just to go in Ann Arbor and try to get out someplace else on Sunday is tough. But I always watch them on Saturday, so I'd like to see what they're doing.
Hey, so now you're doing stuff for NFL.com. You're writing for them. You're working for the NFL Network. Give people an idea if they go to NFL.com and they're looking for Jeff Chadiha this week. What are you writing on? What's your assignment of the week?
Well, I do a weekly column called The First Read, where we look ahead to what's coming. Try to get a sense. We do less, looking back on the week, more like, hey, what's top trends? Who are the players you should be looking out for? This week, I'm doing something on Quinnen Williams of the Jets and the success he's had. He talked about great defensive tackles. He's certainly, putting his name up there with the Aaron Donalds and the Chris Joneses and the Fletcher Coxes of the world. And I got a couple of stories down the road I'm working on. One on just the new era of general managers being risk takers and gamblers, like your man John Lynch over there making that big move. And also the importance of number one receivers, just how much those guys mean to an offense nowadays. And again, like with Deebo Samuel went to San Francisco, what Cooper Kupp went to the Rams last year, Jamar Chase, those guys, A.J. Brown, Tyreek Hill. If you don't have somebody like that, it's hard to play offense today.
Did you get a little sit-down time with Quinnen?
I did. Great kid.
Did you talk to him at all about that outburst at his coach? Because man, he looked angry at the D-line coach. About a month ago on the sideline? He was jawing at him, and the other players were like, "Q, calm down." Pump
that's not really his nature. He's a more fun-loving, laid-back guy. So but he's playing at a different level because he's expecting more of himself this year, and he's more fired up. So I think, again, like Mahomes and Kyler Murray, I think it was more in the moment. I don't think it's a testimony to who he is as a person.
Jeff, great stuff, man. Thank you for stopping by and helping us preview Niners Chiefs. If I don't talk to you, happy holidays to you and the family in the months ahead. And we'll be looking for your stuff on both NFL Network and NFL.com. And thanks again.
Thank you. Sorry about that, man.
Bless you, brother.
Right,
we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks a lot, man. Take care.
Take care.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what you asked for. Here for whatever you bring me, getting handled. I answer to no one, I don't need to hassle. Yeah.